Step back from the car, ma'am. Do it now.
What exactly is in that briefcase, and where are you headed this late?
I am an attorney, and that contains privileged documents.
Built her company from nothing. The officer's flashlight sliced through her tinted window. License and registration, he said, voice thick with disdain. She lowered the window halfway. Is there a problem, officer? He sneered. Yeah, you don't fit the car. Ava blinked. Excuse me, step out now. The chill of the night hit her skin as she obeyed. His boots scraped the asphalt, his breath sharp with authority and stale coffee. People slowed on the sidewalk, phones angled discreetly. He circled the car, muttering, "This yours, or your boyfriend's? It's mine." Her voice was level, controlled, the voice she used in boardrooms. He leaned close, whispering so only she could hear. "You people always say that." Then he yanked the door open, grabbed her arm, and tossed her keys onto the ground. "You can walk." Ava stared, disbelief crystallizing into a cold, electric rage. Around them, camera phones glowed like a jury. Her driver's license lay glinting on the pavement, face up beneath his boot. He didn't even look down. Ava's phone buzzed in her clutch. A text from her assistant. "Chief wants to meet about the precinct acquisition tomorrow morning." Her heart thudded once, hard. The officer smirked, kicking her keys farther into the gutter. "Bet your boss'll love hearing about this." Ava's eyes lifted, steady. "He already knows," she said. The wind shifted. The cameras kept rolling, and Officer Grant had no idea whose station he'd just disgraced. The hum of the electric motor faded as Ava Sinclair eased her Tesla onto the shoulder. The digital dashboard glowed. 9:43 p.m. She'd been driving home from the downtown fundraiser, still replaying the mayor's offhand comment, "You're a remarkable young lady for what you've achieved." Now, flashing lights pulsed through the rear window like a heartbeat. She lowered the window. Cold air swept in, carrying the faint smell of gasoline and wet asphalt. "License and registration," the officer said, his badge read Grant. Ava's hand didn't shake, but her pulse thudded hard enough to feel in her throat. "Of course." She reached slowly, every movement deliberate. Grant's flashlight followed her hand. "Keep your hands where I can see 'em." "They're right here," she said evenly, holding both palms up before opening her purse. He leaned closer. "You always drive this late, ma'am." "Yes, I was coming from a fundraiser." He smirked. "That right? Fancy car. It's just transportation." He circled around the hood, light bouncing off her windshield. "You mind stepping out? Did I do something wrong? You match a description." She froze. "Of who?" He didn't answer, just gestured toward the pavement. "Out." Ava stepped out, the hem of her gown brushing the cold concrete. People passed by on the sidewalk, some slowing, some pretending not to see. A teenager lifted his phone, recording. Grant leaned against the car. "Where you work, Miss Sinclair?" "I'm the CEO of Sinclair Technologies." "Never heard of it." "You will." He chuckled. "You got an attitude." "No, I have boundaries." His jaw tightened. "That's so." He took her license, looked at it too long, then tossed it onto the hood. "You can wait over there." The streetlight flickered overhead. Somewhere in the distance, a train wailed. Minutes stretched. Her skin prickled from the cold, but she stood still, gaze fixed on the license reflecting amber light. Finally, he stepped closer. "You think you're special, don't you?" Ava didn't answer. He picked up the license, held it between two fingers. "Nice photo. Shame if something happened to it." Her silence was deliberate now, a shield, a statement. Grant dropped the license to the ground. "Go on, pick it up." The crowd murmured. Someone whispered, "He's filming her." Ava crouched slowly, picked up her ID, dusted off the corner. She didn't look up. Grant kicked her car door. "Next time, don't act like you own the street." Her eyes rose, cold and steady. "I own more than you think." He laughed, stepping back. "You done here, ma'am." Ava got in, closed the door quietly. The engine hummed back to life as she drove away. The reflection of his smirk burned in the rearview mirror. Her phone buzzed. Incoming call, board chair. She let it ring. The flashing lights receded, but the sound, that sharp, electronic siren, kept echoing in her head. Like a promise she intended to collect, the morning light poured across the glass walls of Ava Sinclair's penthouse, like a slow confession. The city below stirred to life, horns, sirens, and the faint pulse of morning news on every cafe screen. Ava sat at her kitchen island, hands wrapped around a cup of black coffee she hadn't yet tasted. Her reflection in the marble countertop looked almost unfamiliar, same tailored composure, but behind it, a tension that hadn't loosened since last night. Her assistant, Jordan, appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. You saw the video. Ava didn't look up. Yes, it's everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, even the local morning segment. They're calling it CEO pulled over for driving while black. Ava finally sipped her coffee. Clever? Jordan frowned. It's not clever. It's disgusting. You should file a complaint or go public. People would rally behind you. I don't need rallying, Ava said. I need control. Jordan hesitated, then laid the tablet on the counter. A still image glowed across the screen. Her face, caught mid-blink under the officer's flashlight. The headline scrolled beneath, "Unidentified officer faces scrutiny after viral stop. He doesn't know who you are," Jordan said quietly. Not yet, Ava replied. Outside, the hum of the city rose. Delivery vans, morning rush, helicopters circling the downtown district. Today's meeting would determine the final phase of Sinclair Technologies' acquisition deal, a comprehensive digital overhaul of the city's police infrastructure, body cam integration, cloud storage, new precinct software, including the one Officer Grant worked at. Ava stood. Have they confirmed the police board meeting time? 10 a.m. sharp, Jordan said. City Hall Annex. You'll be in front of the procurement committee and the deputy chief. Good. She placed the empty cup in the sink. Let's keep the viral thing out of the room. No distractions. Jordan looked unconvinced. Ava, they'll know. You were trending all night. Then let's see who pretends they didn't. The boardroom at City Hall was colder than the street outside. Frosted glass, walls, oak table, 12 suited figures, all men except Ava. A small nameplate read Deputy Chief Harold Quinn. He was older, silver-haired face cut with the kind of habitual authority that never questioned itself. He stood as she entered. Ms. Sinclair, we appreciate you making the time. Of course, Ava said, taking her seat. I understand we're finalizing the precinct tech acquisition today. Yes, there are a few logistical details. The word logistical always meant political. The presentation began. Charts, metrics, integration time. Ava spoke cleanly, every statistic precise. Her company's software would automate misconduct tracking, improve transparency, create audit trails. In theory, the very systems designed to prevent what had happened to her less than 12 hours ago. When she finished, the deputy chief smiled, a measured expression. Impressive work, but tell me, what inspired this particular focus on accountability software? Ava met his eyes. Experience, she said simply. The room went still. One of the men coughed. Another shuffled papers. The deputy chief leaned back. You're a woman of color, running one of the city's top tech firms. That must feel rewarding. There it was, the microaggression, cloaked in compliment. Ava's lips curved slightly. It feels earned. Silence. She tapped her tablet, displaying the final clause on the screen. Upon approval, all precincts, including District 7, will transition to Sinclair's oversight within 30 days. District 7, Officer Grant's station. The deputy chief nodded. We'll need the mayor's sign-off, but barring any complications, that's acceptable. Ava smiled faintly. I don't anticipate complications. In the elevator afterward, Jordan exhaled. You just stared down an entire wall of white suits. I've done worse, Ava said. But doesn't it bother you that he's still out there? That officer. Ava pressed the button for the lobby. It bothers me enough to be strategic. As the doors opened, a reporter stepped in front of them. Microphone. Camera crew. Ms. Sinclair, quick question. Do you have any comment on last night's incident involving you and a city officer? Ava's smile was immaculate, cold as cut glass. Not at this time. The conference room smelled of burnt coffee and bureaucracy. The blinds were drawn tight, shutting out the morning sun, leaving everything in a haze of recycled air and tension. Ava sat across from Internal Affairs Officer Maria Velasquez, sharp suit eyes that measured people before words. A single camera blinked red in the corner. Thank you for coming in, Ms. Sinclair, Velasquez began, her tone careful. We understand you had an encounter with one of our officers. Encounter, Ava repeated. The words sat heavy, ironic. That's what we're calling it. Velasquez didn't flinch. I'm required to use neutral terminology during the intake process. I'll be asking you to recount what happened. Ava nodded. He stopped me without probable cause, ordered me out of my car, made derogatory insinuations about my race, and threw my keys on the ground. There's footage. You've seen it. Velasquez sighed softly. I have. Unfortunately, video alone can be interpreted in different ways. Context matters. Ava leaned back. Does humiliation have context? The silence was an answer. Across the table, the department's legal representative, a man in a navy suit with a badge-shaped lapel pin, cleared his throat. Officer Grant claims he initiated the stop because your vehicle matched the description of a stolen car earlier that night. Ava smiled faintly. And the verbal abuse, the physical aggression. He spread his hands. Stress, late shift. Tensions were high. Convenient. Velasquez interjected quickly. Miss Sinclair, our office will conduct a full review. Officer Grant is on temporary leave pending the investigation. Paid leave, Ava said flatly. Velasquez hesitated. That's standard. Of course it is. Ava gathered her papers. I know how this goes. Officer Velasquez, I build systems for accountability. You build walls to contain it. Velasquez's expression softened, just slightly. I don't enjoy this either. I'm sure, Ava said, standing. But enjoyment isn't the measure of justice. Outside, Jordan was waiting with the car. How'd it go? Exactly how it always goes, Ava said, sliding into the back seat. They'll circle the wagons. Protect him. Protect the badge. Jordan pulled into traffic. Then what now? Now, Ava said, we look where they don't want us to. By afternoon, her office buzzed with quiet purpose. 3 of her compliance analysts worked behind closed doors, combing through records, personnel audits, civil complaints, misconduct reports that had never seen daylight. District 7's data access is locked behind the city's internal firewall. One analyst said, we'll need official clearance. You'll have it by morning. Ava replied, huh. She didn't answer. Instead, she opened her laptop and began drafting an internal memorandum, language cool and professional, the tone of a CEO ensuring security integrity across forthcoming municipal partnerships. In other words, a pretext to mirror the precinct's data servers. Jordan glanced at her screen. You're walking a fine line. I'm walking the line they drew, Ava said. That evening, a storm rolled in. Thunder cracked over the skyline as she sat by the window, watching lightning trace the shape of the city. Her phone buzzed with an unknown number. Ms. Sinclair. The voice was male, cautious. My name's Leon Price. I'm a journalist with the Herald. I think you'll want to see something. Go on. I've been following your case. There's chatter in the department. Grant's got priors, unofficial complaints that vanished in review. Internal affairs won't talk, but something's buried in their archives. Ava's jaw tightened. You have proof? Not yet, but I can help you find it. I don't leak stories, Ava said. I'm not asking for a leak, Leon replied. I'm offering leverage. The next morning, the files came in, hundreds of pages of redacted reports, disciplinary warnings that ended in no further action, citizen complaints closed due to insufficient evidence. Jordan scanned the documents, eyebrows raised. This is a pattern. It's a system, Ava corrected. One page caught her eye. An earlier incident, 2 years prior. Officer Grant had detained a young black man at gunpoint during a traffic stop. The complaint was dismissed after his partner claimed the suspect matched a robbery description. Same wording, same playbook. Ava's voice was quiet but sharp. He's done this before. They all knew. Jordan looked at her. You're not just fighting one cop, are you? No, Ava said. I'm fighting the paperwork that protects him. That night, she drafted a report, anonymized data, patterns of bias, correlations between officers, precincts, and dropped complaints. She titled it, Paper Shields, the Invisible Architecture of Misconduct. When she was done, she sent one copy to her legal team, another to Leon Price. Then she sat back, hands trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of what was coming. In the reflection of her office glass, the city glimmered like circuitry lines of power, connection, and silence waiting to be broken. She whispered to no one, let's see what happens when the shield cracks. The precinct's locker room smelled of sweat, gun oil, and unspoken loyalty. Officer Daniel Grant sat on a wooden bench, scrolling through his phone. His face was plastered across every local feed. The viral clip paused mid, his flashlight cutting across Ava Sinclair's face like a weapon. Jesus, muttered his partner, O'Reilly, slamming his locker. You really stepped in it, man. Grant's jaw twitched. It's blown out of proportion. She was mouthy, that's all. O'Reilly shot him a look. She's a damn CEO, Danny. You think the department's gonna cover you forever? They will, Grant said flatly. They always do. In the captain's office, blinds drawn, the conversation was less confident. Sit down, Captain Harlan said. His tone was tired. Internal Affairs is breathing down my neck, Grant. The chief's office too. The woman you stopped, she's not just some executive. She's got pull. Grant's chest tightened. What kind of pull? Harlan rubbed his temples. Her company's in line to take over precinct tech management citywide. Grant froze. What? Exactly what you heard. So, here's the plan. Lay low. No statements. No interviews. The union's got your back. But this storm's gonna take a while. She's making me out to be racist. Harlan gave him a look that said he wouldn't touch that line with a 10-foot pole. You're suspended until this blows over. Grant slammed a fist on the desk. You're hanging me out to dry. I'm protecting what's left of this department's credibility. Grant left without another word, the hallway's fluorescent lights buzzing like gnats above him. Across town, Ava's office hummed with quiet purpose. Her analysts had unearthed more, not just Grant, but 3 other officers from the same precinct with identical profiling complaints, all resolved with minimal documentation. They called it discretionary stops, Jordan said, scrolling through a spreadsheet. But the data's clear. It's racial targeting. Ava folded her arms, the blue walls thicker than policy. It's culture. Jordan exhaled. You think exposing it'll change anything? No, Ava said, but it'll make hiding it harder. At sunset, a storm of press calls began. Leon Price's first expos hit the Herald's digital front page. The paper shield. New documents revealed suppressed misconduct inside District 7. The story quoted an anonymous source with access to internal audit data. It didn't name Ava, but everyone knew. Within hours, news vans lined up outside Sinclair Technologies headquarters. Inside, Ava stood by the window, watching the chaos unfold below. Her phone rang. Velasquez, you leaked the files, Velasquez said. I released evidence, Ava replied. You jeopardized an active investigation. I illuminated a failed one. Velasquez's voice sharpened. You're playing a dangerous game. No, Ava said, her tone level, quiet. I'm changing the rules. That night, at a local bar where the precinct regulars gathered, the mood was dark. Can't believe the department's letting that tech woman drag us through the mud, one officer muttered. Watch your mouth, another said. She might own the whole system soon. Grant sat at the counter, staring into his drink. The television above the bar replayed the viral clip over and over. His voice, audible. You don't fit the car, he muttered. They don't know what it's like out there. The bartender, an older black man, gave him a look that wasn't sympathy. Some of us do. Grant turned away. The room was suddenly too quiet. Back in her penthouse, Ava was alone again. The city flickered beneath her like an exposed circuit board. Jordan's voice played over the intercom. The department's calling an emergency press conference tomorrow. You're going to be named. Ava didn't move. Then let them. You sure you want to face them? Her eyes stayed on the skyline. It's not about facing them. It's about making sure they can't look away. She closed the laptop. Her reflection stared back, calm, deliberate, unblinking. The storm outside intensified, wind battering against the glass. Somewhere beneath that sound, sirens rose again, distant, defensive, familiar. For the first time, Ava didn't flinch. The precinct's glass doors reflected the morning light, sharp, clinical, almost sterile. The same station where Officer Grant had once leaned against her car now stood in silence as Ava Sinclair stepped out of her black sedan. A dozen reporters waited across the street, restrained by yellow barricades and the invisible weight of curiosity. She adjusted her coat, expression composed. Jordan followed a few steps behind, tablet in hand. This is it, he murmured. No, she said quietly. This is where it starts to turn. The station's front desk officer stiffened when she entered. His nameplate read S. Torres. He recognized her instantly. The hesitation was brief but visible. Ms. Sinclair, the board's waiting for you in conference room B. Thank you, Ava replied. As she walked down the corridor, eyes followed her uniforms, paused mid-conversation, whispers echoing after she passed. The faint hum of vending machines, the smell of stale coffee, the clicking of radios, every sensory detail pressed into her memory. When she reached the meeting room, the door was already open. Inside sat 4 men and 1 woman from the city's procurement board, along with Deputy Chief Harold Quinn, and at the far corner, slouched, eyes dull, was Daniel Grant. Ava didn't look surprised. The deputy chief gestured toward an empty chair. Ms. Sinclair, we appreciate your attendance. I was invited, she said simply, taking her seat. The meeting began with perfunctory formalities, agenda reviews, contract terms, performance clauses. Every line of dialogue sounded rehearsed, as if trying to disguise the tension simmering underneath. Finally, Quinn leaned forward. Before we proceed to final approval, there's been concern regarding recent publicity. Your involvement in the viral incident has raised questions about impartiality. Ava's tone was even. You're suggesting I can't manage reform in a system that abused me. I'm saying public trust is delicate, Quinn replied. We have to ensure objectivity. Ava's gaze sharpened. Objectivity died the moment one of your officers decided I didn't fit my own car. The room went still. Grant shifted uncomfortably. His uniform collar was unbuttoned, eyes darting between her and the table. One of the board members coughed. Perhaps we can. Ava cut him off, voice steady. Sinclair Technologies was selected because we provide oversight that doesn't bend to bias. If that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe that's why we're needed. Quinn's jaw tightened. You're treading close to accusation. No, she said, meeting his gaze. I'm standing in evidence. A murmur rippled across the room. Jordan, sitting quietly near the back, began tapping his tablet. The monitor on the wall flickered to life. Data sheets, misconduct graphs, heat maps of complaint clusters. These are preliminary analytics from our internal audit, Ava said. District 7 has the highest rate of discretionary stops for black drivers, 4 times the city average, and the lowest rate of disciplinary follow-through. Quinn's face hardened. That data is confidential. It was, Ava replied, until yesterday's board approval clause granted Sinclair full integration access. The silence afterward was absolute. Grant stood abruptly. This is bull. Sit down, Officer Grant, Quinn snapped. But Ava didn't look at Quint. Her eyes were locked on Grant. You said something to me that night, she said softly. You said I didn't fit the car. Grant's mouth opened, then closed. Ava leaned forward slightly. You were right. I don't fit inside the limits you live by. Her words hung in the air, calm, surgical, impossible to refute. By the end of the meeting, the board voted. The acquisition passed, unanimous. District 7, along with 6 other precincts, fell officially under Sinclair Technologies Data Management Authority. As the contracts were signed, Quinn's pen trembled slightly. Ava's did not. Outside the precinct, the press surged forward. Microphones extended like drawn weapons. Ms. Sinclair, what's your reaction to the vote? Ava paused on the steps. The winter air bit at her cheeks. Progress doesn't erase pain, she said, but it prevents repetition. That's enough for now. Are you seeking disciplinary action against the officer? Another shouted. She met the camera lens directly. I don't need to. The system he hid behind is now mine to rebuild. Inside the station, Grant sat alone in the locker room. His reflection in the cracked mirror looked smaller than before. The faint sound of reporters outside filtered through the walls, her name echoing where his authority used to fill the air. He ran a hand over his face. Unbelievable, he muttered. From the hallway, someone whispered, you should have kept your mouth shut that night. Grant didn't answer. The words landed like a sentence. Back in her car, Ava closed her eyes. For a moment, she let the silence settle. Not peace, not satisfaction, but gravity. Jordan drove, glancing at her through the mirror. You did it, he said. No, Ava replied quietly. I just opened the door. Her phone buzzed with an incoming text. Leon Price, we need to talk. There's more under District 7's files. Ava looked out at the passing skyline. The glass towers shimmered in cold daylight, fragile, temporary, and full of secrets. Her reflection in the window didn't smile. The rain returned that night, thin, needling, unrelenting. The city seemed to breathe in sync with it, tired, restless, waiting for something to give. Ava sat in her office long after everyone else had gone home. The lights of downtown bled through the wide glass windows, painting reflections across the polished floor. A dozen monitors glowed in front of her, each displaying encrypted files from the precinct database. The header read, District 7, internal records restricted. Jordan's voice crackled through her headset. You sure about digging this deep tonight? We already got what we came for. Not yet, Ava said. Something's missing. She opened a folder, labeled Use of Force, Review Pending. Dozens of reports filled the screen, incomplete, unsigned, or stamped filed without resolution. One file stopped her cold. Subject, Marcus Ellis, deceased officer in charge. Daniel Grant. The report date was 2 years before her arrest. She clicked it open. The document was thin, No video attachments, no witness statements, just a 2-paragraph justification. Subject resisted arrest. Officer followed standard protocol. No further action recommended. Her pulse tightened. Jordan, she said slowly. Marcus Ellis. Run that name through external archives. A few seconds passed. Then, got it, civilian. Aged, died in custody. Family filed a complaint that never advanced past internal review. No external press coverage. Ava exhaled. It's buried. Looks like it. Not anymore. By morning, the discovery had turned into strategy. Ava arranged a meeting with Leon Price, the journalist who'd first covered her incident. They met at a small diner on 5th Street, the kind of place where the coffee tasted like metal and the booths still carried the ghosts of old protests whispered over breakfast. Leon looked the same, restless eyes, worn leather jacket, perpetual distrust in his tone. You look like you haven't slept, he said. I haven't, Ava replied. I found something. He leaned forward. Go on. She slid a flash drive across the table. Unreleased internal file. A man named Marcus Ellis. Officer Grant was involved. The case never made it past internal review. Leon plugged the drive into his laptop. His face hardened as he scrolled. Jesus, they didn't even log the body cam footage. They erased it, Ava said. But metadata shows a record of its existence. Leon looked up. You realize what this means, right? You're going to make enemies in every corner of this department. They were never my allies. He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. All right, I'll publish, but I want you on record. Ava's expression didn't change. You'll have my statement by noon. The story broke 12 hours later. Headline: New data leak links Officer Daniel Grant to unresolved death of civilian Marcus Ellis. Within minutes, it spread across social media. TV anchors repeated the name Marcus Ellis with the same solemn cadence once reserved for hers. The police union called it defamation. The mayor's office called it disturbing but unverified. And Daniel Grant, he called his lawyer. Inside the precinct, chaos rippled. Grant stormed into Quinn's office, slamming the newspaper onto the desk. You told me this was sealed. Quinn didn't look up. It was until Sinclair's access. You're not gonna defend me. I can't defend a file that shouldn't exist, Quinn said coldly. You're on leave until further notice. Grant stared at him, disbelief breaking into anger. You're throwing me under the bus for her. Quinn finally met his eyes. I'm protecting the department. You made yourself expendable. Grant's fists tightened, then released. She's not gonna stop until she ruins everything. Then maybe she's doing my job better than you ever did. That night, Ava arrived home to find a black SUV idling across the street. She didn't flinch, just stood at her door, key still in hand. A window rolled down. A voice called out, You made your point, Miss Sinclair. Maybe it's time to stop digging. She turned toward the voice. You're trespassing. The SUV pulled away, tires whispering against wet asphalt. She entered her apartment, locked the door, and stood for a long moment in silence. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but the cost of being right. The next morning, her office was flooded with calls. Supporters, threats, reporters, investors, everyone wanted a piece of the story. Jordan looked exhausted. We've got 3 security alerts, 2 media requests, and a police liaison asking for a statement. Ava didn't look up from her desk. Tell them the system reacts violently when it's forced to look in the mirror. He hesitated. Ava, what's your endgame here? Her voice was calm. Accountability, not revenge. At noon, a press conference unfolded on the courthouse steps. Cameras, microphones, chaos. Leon Price stood beside her as she faced the reporters. Ms. Sinclair, one shouted, people are saying you're on a witch hunt against the police. How do you respond? Ava's reply was sharp, measured. If truth feels like persecution, that says more about guilt than justice. Do you fear retaliation? Another asked. I fear silence more, she said. Her words cut through the noise, controlled, deliberate. The sound bites would echo across every network that evening. But somewhere in the crowd, behind the flashing cameras and roaring questions, Daniel Grant watched in silence. His jaw was clenched, his eyes dark with something between hatred and despair. When the conference ended, he disappeared before anyone could see where he went. That night, Leon called. The department's under federal review now. You did it. They can't bury it anymore. Ava stared out at the rain-soaked city skyline. I didn't do it for them. I know, Leon said. But maybe now someone like Marcus gets remembered. She didn't answer. Her mind was already elsewhere. back in the files, in the holes, in the spaces where names vanished and justice drowned quietly, because she knew there were more. And the deeper she went, the more she realized this wasn't a single story. It was an architecture of silence. In the darkness of his apartment, Daniel Grant loaded a gun onto the table. His badge sat beside it, dull under the lamp's weak light. He whispered to himself, "She thinks she's the hero." Then, after a long pause, "We'll see." The rain outside didn't stop, neither did the quiet reckoning building underneath it. The city didn't sleep that week. Every headline carried Ava Sinclair's name. Every debate show turned her case into moral theater. Every officer in District 7 was ordered to cooperate fully with federal auditors. And Daniel Grant, the man at the center of it all, vanished. 2 days of silence, no phone activity, no confirmed location. His apartment, empty except for a duffel bag and an open Bible on the counter. By the third morning, Ava's security team upgraded her threat level to imminent. Jordan paced the office. "We need to relocate you until this cools down." "I'm not hiding," Ava said. "You don't get to make that call anymore," he snapped. "Grant's gone off radar. His union's not protecting him. He's unstable. If he shows up, he'll find me working," she interrupted, cold and steady. Jordan slammed his fist on the table. "You think courage keeps you alive?" "No," she said softly, "but silence kills more people than bullets ever could." By evening, she was alone again, everyone gone except the rain tapping on the glass. She stared at the city lights reflected in her office window. They looked fractured, as if the whole skyline were cracking under invisible pressure. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Static, then a voice, rough, quiet, controlled. "You talk too much, Sinclair." Her spine stiffened. "Grant, you should have stayed in your lane. And you should have stayed out of mine. You think you can take everything from me." "No," she said. "You did that yourself." A sharp exhale from the other end. Then the line went dead. 15 minutes later, the building alarm blared. Jordan's voice echoed over. "Comes Ava. Get down. We've got a breach at the west entrance." She ducked behind her desk, eyes scanning the security feed on her tablet. A shadow moved through the lobby. One man, dark jacket, cap pulled low. The camera caught only half his face. "Grant," she whispered. "He's here." Jordan's team rushed the floor above, but Ava knew he wouldn't come through the front. Grant was a tactician. He'd circle, find an exit route, and corner her. She moved fast, through the back corridor, past the silent elevator, toward the emergency stairs. Her heels clacked once, then she kicked them off, feet silent against the cold tile. A noise behind her, a door opening. "Sinclair." His voice, close. She froze. "I told you," he said. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. "You don't get to win this." Ava turned, keeping her distance. "This isn't about winning. It's about the truth." "The truth." He laughed, short, bitter. "You ruined my career with half a file and a headline. You killed a man and called it procedure." He stepped closer. "You think you're better than us. You think your title makes you untouchable." She met his gaze. "It doesn't. But it makes me accountable. Can you say the same?" His expression flickered, something between guilt and rage. The gun in his hand wavered. "You humiliated me," he whispered. "You humiliated yourself," she said. He raised the gun. "Don't." Ava didn't move. Her breath came shallow, her pulse a drum in her ears. "If you pull that trigger, you confirm everything they already suspect about you." His jaw tightened. "Maybe I don't care anymore." "Then you're finally being honest." For a moment, everything held. The rain outside, the city hum, the fluorescent flicker above them. Then the stairwell door burst open. Jordan's voice thundered, "Drop it." Grant spun toward, the noise instinctive, trained. A single shot cracked through the hall. The gun clattered to the floor. Grant fell to his knees, clutching his shoulder. Ava stood frozen, the world blurring into sound and motion. Jordan's shouts, the echo of sirens below, the weight of everything collapsing at once. Hours later, the precinct was a fortress of chaos. Grant survived. The bullet had passed clean through. He sat in handcuffs, blood drying on his sleeve, eyes empty. Ava gave her statement under the glow of police lights. Her voice was calm but brittle. "Yes, he called me directly. No, I didn't provoke him. Yes, I believe he intended to kill me." When it was over, she turned to leave. Quinn stood near the tape line, watching her. "Sinclair," he said quietly, "you got your justice. He's finished." She stopped. "Justice?" He hesitated. "What would you call it?" She met his eyes, the man who had once looked through her like she was invisible. Justice doesn't bleed out in a hallway. Chief Justice stands trial. The federal investigation tore through District 7 like a storm that refused to pass. Files once sealed were pried open. Names once protected appeared on warrants. The blue wall that had stood for decades began to crack under the weight of exposure. By the third week, 3 officers were suspended, 2 captains resigned, and Daniel Grant, the face of it all, was moved to a secure federal holding facility, awaiting trial for obstruction of justice, assault with a deadly weapon, and falsifying reports. Ava watched the coverage from her office, the screen glowing pale against her tired face. The news anchors spoke his name with the same grave precision they'd once used for hers. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She only whispered, "It's not over." Jordan stood beside her, arms crossed. "You're right. It never really ends, does it?" "No," she said. "It just changes form." 2 days later, she was summoned to testify before the Federal Oversight Committee. The hearing room was austere, wooden panels, brass fixtures, the echo of every step across marble floors. Cameras lined the walls, silent but hungry. She took her seat, facing the semicircle of officials. Agent Morales sat to her left, poised, precise. The lead investigator adjusted his glasses. "Ms. Sinclair, for the record, please state your position." "Ava Sinclair, founder and CEO, Sinclair Global Holdings. You've alleged systemic corruption within District 7's chain of command. Can you substantiate your claim beyond the Grant case?" Ava's voice was steady. "Yes. The same review logs that buried Marcus Ellis's file show 3 other uninvestigated deaths, all under similar circumstances. Same language, same omission patterns, each one signed off by Deputy Chief Quinn." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The investigator leaned forward. "You're accusing a high-ranking officer of conspiracy." "I'm not accusing," she said. "I'm providing evidence." She slid a folder across the table, meticulous, color-coded. The silence that followed was surgical. Morales broke it. "We've corroborated her findings. The signatures match. The system was designed to erase patterns before they reached oversight." The investigator nodded slowly. "We'll review this immediately. Thank you, Ms. Sinclair." As she rose to leave, one of the older committee members spoke softly, almost to himself. "The cost of truth is always too high for those who can still afford silence." Ava met his eyes. "Then maybe it's time they pay up." Outside, reporters swarmed, cameras flashed. "Ms. Sinclair, is it true Deputy Chief Quinn is under investigation? Do you believe the entire precinct was complicit? What do you want to happen next?" Ava stopped at the top of the courthouse steps. "I don't want vengeance," she said. "I want accountability. Because the system doesn't need enemies. It collapses from the weight of its own lies." The crowd roared questions, but she was already walking away. That night, Quinn sat in his office, staring at the empty walls. The framed commendations had been removed, the nameplate stripped from the door. He poured himself a drink, the last one he'd have in uniform. His phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "You're next." He looked up at the clock, its hands ticking toward midnight, and for the first time in 20 years, he felt fear. Morning came heavy and gray. The news broke before sunrise. Headline: Deputy Chief Quinn resigns amid federal probe. Multiple officers to be indicted. The article was brief, clinical, devastating. By afternoon, Quinn's resignation had triggered a domino effect. The mayor's office announced sweeping reforms. The city council approved a new civilian review board, and Ava Sinclair was appointed as a liaison to oversee transparency initiatives within the police department. The same station that once humiliated her was now being restructured under her supervision. Poetic justice had a cruel symmetry. When she entered the precinct for the first time since her arrest, the air was different, colder, quieter, stripped of arrogance. She passed officers who looked away, their eyes lowered. The same walls that once echoed with her humiliation now held the silence of reckoning. In the briefing room, she stopped before the long table, where new recruits sat waiting for orientation. One of them, young, earnest, maybe 24, asked, "Ma'am, what's the point of all this change? They say nothing really ever changes." Ava looked at him, saw in his question the exhaustion of a generation that inherited broken systems. She said, "Change isn't a point, it's pressure. It's the refusal to stop pushing when everything tells you it's useless." The room stayed silent. "Don't be the kind of officer who looks away," she finished. "That's how rot begins." Later that evening, she stood alone in the parking lot. The sun set, bleeding gold over the city skyline. Jordan joined her quietly. They're calling this the Sinclair reforms. She gave a faint, humorless smile. History loves names. It hates remembering cost. He nodded. You could walk away now. You know, you've done more than anyone expected. Ava's gaze stayed on the horizon. If I walk away, they'll rebuild the same system with prettier words. And if you stay, then maybe the next Ava Sinclair doesn't have to survive it first. Weeks later, the trial began. Daniel Grant sat in court, pale and silent. The footage played again, Marcus Ellis's final moments projected on the wall. Ava watched from the gallery, not with triumph, not with rage, just the stillness of someone who'd seen the cost of truth up close. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, she felt no release, only a quiet exhale. Because justice wasn't victory, it was consequence, and consequence was never clean. After the verdict, she stepped outside. Cameras waited, microphones raised, but this time, she said nothing. She just looked into the crowd, at the faces, at the movement, at the restless energy of a city still learning to breathe truth. Then she walked away. That night, she returned to her apartment, turned off every light, and sat by the window. Rain again, soft, endless, familiar. She thought of Marcus Ellis, of her own arrest, of all the names she'd uncovered. She thought of what it meant to rebuild, something that never truly existed. And in the reflection of the glass, she whispered the line she'd carried since that night in the rain. When it all began, they thought power meant permanence. She looked out at the skyline, fractured and glowing. They were wrong.